Today, it is July 7/27 on the Roman calendar, and we'll get a look at Jerusalem Post this morning and see what it is on the Hebrew calendar. It is the 4th of Av, 5777 on the Hebrew calendar. And the month of Av causes great concern for the Jews because things has happened, very bad things has happened to the Jews in that month, especially on the 9th of Av. I will go to Chabad.org. It is CHABAD.org. And of course, as we know, the Israelis, out of fear, have taken down all the metal detectors, cameras, and everything. And one might ask, why, oh why would you do this? Why would you capitulate? Folks, you have to understand, for 2,000 years, it seems like, with the exception of beginning with 1948, it seems like the Israelis have faced nothing but defeat, murder, mayhem, over and over and over again. Now, we are coming upon the 9th of Av, which is, it strikes fear into the hearts of the Jews. So I'll explain on this article. The article is titled Tisha B'Av and the 3 weeks, what happened on the 9th of Av. The 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av, commemorates a list of catastrophes so severe it is clearly a day set aside by, I will use Jehovah instead of God, for suffering. Picture this. The year is 1313 BCE. The Israelites are in the desert, recently having experienced a miraculous exodus, and are now poised to enter the promised land. But they first dispatch a reconnaissance mission to assist in formulating a prudent battle strategy. The spies return on the 8th day of Av and report that the land is unconquerable. That night, the 9th of Av, the people cry. Yes, they murmur. And they insist that they'd rather go back to Egypt than to be slaughtered by the Canaanites. Jehovah is highly displeased with this public demonstration of distrust of his power, and consequently that generation of Israelites never enters the Holy Land. Only their children have that privilege after wandering in the wilderness for another 38 years. Actually, it's 40 years. The first temple was also destroyed on the 9th of Av, 423 BCE. 5 centuries later, in 69 CE, as the Romans drew closer to the second temple, ready to torch it, which is actually the third temple, folks. Let me remind everyone, both Jew and Gentile, that the first temple was Solomon's temple, the second temple was Zerubbabel's temple, the third temple was Herod's temple. So Herod's temple, they were ready to torch it on this. The second temple was going to be torched, or ready to be torched, the same day as the second temple. The third temple would be destroyed the same day as the second temple. Third as the first temple. Okay. Because the first temple was destroyed by the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. The third temple was destroyed by the Romans. When the Jews rebelled against Roman rule, they believed that their leader, Simon Bar Kokhba, would fulfill their messianic longings. But their hopes were cruelly dashed in 133 CE. Of course, we all know, and I'm speaking of my own right here, that the real Messiah said, there will be false messiahs coming after him. And there were. And he warned about that. But their hopes were cruelly dashed in 133 CE as the Jewish rebels were brutally butchered in the final battle at Betar. The date of the massacre, of course, the 9th of Av. 1 year after the conquest of Betar, the Romans plowed over the Temple Mount, our nation's holiest site. The Jews were expelled from England in 1290 on, you guessed it, Tisha B'Av in 1492. The golden age of Spain came to a close when Queen Isabella and her husband Ferdinand ordered that the Jews be banished from the land. The Edict of Expulsion was signed on March 31st, 1492, and the Jews were given exactly 4 months to put their affairs in order and leave the country, the Hebrew date on which no Jew was allowed any longer to remain in the land where he had enjoyed welcome and prosperity. Oh, but now you know it. By now you know it, the 9th of Av. Ready for just one more? World War II and the Holocaust, historians conclude, was actually the long drawn-out conclusion of World War I that began in 1914, and that would be correct. That would be correct. World War I was never finished. Just like the Korean War today is not finished. And yes, amazingly enough, Germany declared war on Russia, effectively catapulting the First World War into motion on the 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av. What do you make of all this? Jews see this as another confirmation of the deeply held conviction that history is not haphazard. Events, even terrible ones, are a part of a divine plan and have a spiritual meaning. The message of time is that everything has a rational purpose, even though we don't understand it. Well, let me tell you what the rational purpose is. It is written in the prophets. O you who read the Torah, O you who read the New Testament, the secrets are revealed in the prophets. They are in front of your noses. You see, Daniel 9 explains how to find the end of the matter with 5th grade math. 5th grade math. So, yes, the Jews are afraid. Right now, they do not want to have anything to do with any harm that might come to them by their own doings on the coming 9th of Av. We are in the 4th of Av today. So, should we be watchful about this particular day? Absolutely. Absolutely, we should be watchful. But at the same time, let me remind everyone that the 77s of Daniel are fulfilled in this way. The call to rebuild Jerusalem. The first call was by Zerubbabel. Go to Daniel 9 again. Daniel 9 talks about 70 weeks. Verse 24, 70 weeks are determined upon your people and upon your holy city, Jerusalem, to finish the transgression. That means put an end to transgression. So it's much like how it was 40 years in the wilderness to finish the transgression. You see, and he would not let them in. He would not show his favor upon them. He would not let them in the promised land, but he did feed them, but he would not let them in the promised land until the 40 years was over. Period. So, the 70 weeks that were determined upon the Jews and Jerusalem all had to be filled in a exact, precise manner, in exactly the outline that Gabriel gave. So, in verse 26, after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off. All right? Messiah was cut off. So, 62 weeks is over. When you go up to verse 25, it says, Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks. And on the 7-week portion and the 62-week portion, the street shall be built again in the wall, even in troublous times. And after 62 weeks, that's from Zerubbabel unto Messiah was cut off. So that 62 weeks is finished. What happened to the 7 sevens? Not yet. Because you see, Messiah the Prince has not come. Messiah the servant came, but Messiah the Prince did not come. Let me go over something here. It's very important to understand I may have to Google this, but I think it's in Isaiah 53. Okay. So this is about the suffering servant. Who has yes, this is a suffering servant, and this is confirmed in Matthew 26, verses 57 through 68, Mark 14, 53 through 65, John 18, verse 19 through 24, and 1 Peter 2, verse 21 through 25. Who has believed our report, and to whom is the arm of Jehovah revealed? So who is the arm of Jehovah? He is the suffering servant. For, verse 2, for he shall grow up before him as a tender plant. So the suffering servant will grow up before Jehovah as a tender plant, not a prince. And as a root out of a dry ground, he has no form or comeliness. No, he's not a prince. And when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. So he was not a pretty boy. He was a lowly, suffering servant. He was despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, was very acquainted with grief. And we hid our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of Jehovah, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. We all like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and Jehovah has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed, he was afflicted, Yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before the shearers is dumb. So he opened not his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgment. And who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off out of the land of the living. For the transgression of my people was he stricken. What people was he stricken for? The people of Israel. He made his grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it pleased Jehovah, that's the Father, to bruise him. He has put him to grief, when you shall make his soul an offering for sin. Please, Hebrews, please, Jews, read this. You say that human flesh cannot be offered for sin, a sin offering. Well, there it is, folks. In your prophet Isaiah. I'll read it again. Verse 10. Yet it pleased Jehovah to bruise him. He has put him to grief, when you shall make his soul an offering for sin. He shall see his seed. He shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of Jehovah shall prosper in his hand. He shall see of the travail of his soul, and shall be satisfied by his knowledge. Shall my righteous servant justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he has poured out his soul unto death. He was numbered with the transgressors, and he bare the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors. Okay. Hopefully we have got the point here. You see, when he was cut off, he was not Messiah the Prince. Therefore, the time of Messiah's second coming is Messiah the Prince. So you have to count from somewhere 7 sevens. What is that somewhere? There was only one way given from the call to rebuild Jerusalem. Know therefore, understand in verse 25 of Daniel 9, that from the going forth of the commandment to do what? Restore and build Jerusalem unto Messiah the Prince. When did this happen? June 7, 1967, or Shavuot of that year. Shlomo Goren, the general of the IDF, made that call. He said in English, in Jerusalem, just like the Jerusalem of old, rebuilding is to begin, or he just said it in Hebrew, rebuilt. So the call to rebuild Jerusalem commenced that day, Shavuot, 1967. So you count 7 sevens. And what do you see? It says, unto Messiah the Prince. Now, as I said before, the Jews who are in the know, say that a Jubilee had to happen first before the Messianic era begins. And indeed, a Jubilee did happen up until June 2017, 2 months ago, a little bit more than 2 months ago, the Jubilee, or the 50th year, was finished. And now we see the nations gathering around Israel. We see Israel in fear of the month of Av, petrified of the month of Av, the 9th of Av. However, to my Israeli brothers and sisters, have no fear, because the curse is over. It is taken out of the cup of trembling is taken out of your hands. Oh, and I might mention that the 1 week, just in passing, just in case somebody new comes along and listens to this video, the 1 week was fulfilled when Titus, the prince of the people, destroyed the temple and sacked Jerusalem, and not one stone was left on top of the ground, on top of the other. And it was the third temple, and it was not the second temple, it was the third temple. Herod's temple took 46 years to build. That was the third temple. Anyone who says, any one of these Protestant preachers who says otherwise is ignorant. So to the Jews in Israel I say, have no fear. The cup of trembling is taken out of your hand. Isaiah 51. Verse 17. Awake, awake, stand up, O Jerusalem, which have drunk at the hand of Jehovah the cup of his fury. Yes, those days of Av, 9th of Av, that was the cup of his fury. For you have drunken the dregs of the cup of trembling and wrung them out. There is none to guide her among all the sons whom she has brought forth. And indeed this is true today. Neither is there any that takes her by the hand of all the sons that she brought up. These two things have come upon you, and who shall be sorry for you? Desolation and destruction, and the famine and the sword. By whom shall I comfort you? What man is going to comfort Jerusalem for all this that happened? Your sons have fainted. They lie at the head of the streets. As a wild bull in a net, they are full of the fury of Jehovah, the rebuke of your Elohim. Now, at the end of 77s, Jerusalem needs to listen to this. Therefore, hear now this, you afflicted and drunken, but not with wine. Thus says Jehovah, your Elohim, that pleads the cause of his people. Behold, I have taken out of your hand the cup of trembling, even the dregs of the cup of my fury. You shall no more drink it again. Listen to me carefully, all you people of Israel. You shall no more drink it again. Verse 23, I will put it in the hand of them that afflict you, which have said to your soul, bow down that we may walk all over you. And you have laid your body as the ground, as the street to them that went over. Those days are over, Jerusalem. They're over. Isaiah 52, verse 1. Awake, awake, put on your strength, O Zion. Put on your beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city, for henceforth there shall no more enter you the uncircumcised and the unclean. And he's speaking of the uncircumcised of the heart, because that's exactly what these Muslims are. Uncircumcised of the heart. Verse 2, shake yourself from the dust, arise and sit down. O Jerusalem, loose yourself from the bands of your neck, O captive daughter of Zion. For this saith Jehovah, you have sold yourselves for nothing, and you shall be redeemed without money. For thus saith Jehovah Elohim, my people went down in the old days into Egypt to sojourn there, and then the Assyrian oppressed them without cause. Now therefore, what have I here, saith Jehovah, that my people is taken away for nothing? They that rule over them make them howl, saith Jehovah, and my name continually every day is blasphemed. Therefore my people shall know my name. That's right, his name is not God. His name is not Hashem. His name is Yah, Jehovah. Therefore they shall know in that day. In what day? Look at Haggai 2, 24th day of the 9th month. That I am he that does speak, behold it is I. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him that brings good tidings, that publishes peace. That's yes. When these other people are running around claiming that Jerusalem is going to sign a covenant with the so-called Antichrist and it's going to be a false peace, they lie. It's a lie. I'm here to tell you that very soon now Jerusalem is going to obtain real peace. Peace forever. It will never be done to Jerusalem as was done before. It shall never be. Ask anybody who's out there speaking if they agree with me. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of them that bring good tidings, that publish peace, that bring good tidings of good, that publishes salvation. To what? To Zion. This is what it says right here. Now who? Ask yourself a question. Who among those that are on YouTube, who among those that preach at the pulpit tells you that next is peace for Zion? They won't. There are very few, if any. I don't know of any. That publish salvation. That says to Zion, your Elohim lives, he rules. Well, I'm telling you that peace is coming. It's right around the corner, and that Jehovah is Israel's Elohim, and he reigns, he rules. Verse 8, your watchmen shall lift up the voice. With the voice together they shall sing, for they shall see eye to eye, but only when Jehovah shall bring again Zion. Verse 9, break forth into joy, sing together, ye waste places of Jerusalem, for Jehovah has comforted his people, he has redeemed Jerusalem. Is Jerusalem redeemed today? Not quite. That uncircumcised of the heart must be driven out. Those Edomites. Verse 10, Jehovah has made bare his holy arm in the eyes of all nations. Yes, when they come against Jerusalem. and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our Elohim. Who are these people on the ends of the earth? These people on the ends of the earth are lost Israel and the rest of the house of Judah. They're going to see that salvation. And what will be said? Just like where it says, "Come out of her, my people," out of Babylon, "and be not partakers of her sin or her plagues." This is written in Revelation, is it not? Many of you can quote it verbatim. So says it here in verse 12, or verse 11. So he's telling to the folks, to all the Jews, all Israel, who are among the nations, and all the ends of the earth, depart you, get out of there. Verse 11, get out of there. Touch no unclean thing. Go out of the midst of her. Who is her? Babylon. Be you clean that bear the vessels of Jehovah. Who are the vessels of Jehovah? They are Jacob's seed. Verse 12, for you shall not go out with haste, nor by flight. Well, what we call flight today is different from what they called flight back in the days of King James. What they called flight is running for your lives. No, you won't be running for your lives. No. And it will not be in haste, for Jehovah will go in front of you, and the Elohim of Israel will be your reward. No, that's not what it says. Your reward. You see, Israel was given the promised land the first time. They sinned. All Israel was driven out, including Judah and Jerusalem. But when they were taken into promised land by Yehoshua 1, they were given their reward. That was their reward. So, Yehoshua number 2, the second Yehoshua, at the command of Jehovah, our Elohim, our Father in heaven, will provide the reward of Israel. Verse 13, behold my servant. Yes, that servant we talked about, that suffering servant, shall deal prudently. He shall be exalted and extolled and be very high. He shall become Messiah the Prince. As many, so many were astonished at you. His visage was so marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men. So he shall sprinkle many nations. The kings shall shut their mouths in his presence. For that which had not been told to them they shall see, and they that which had heard not they shall consider. So to the Jews, don't be afraid. You are not in a box. You are not in a corner. It is not checkmate on you. No. It is checkmate on your enemies. This 9th of Av shall not hurt you, will not harm you. It's over. Maybe, just maybe, the 9th of Av will be the taking the cup of trembling out of your hand, O Israel, and put in the hands of your enemies. So don't fear the 9th of Av.